Just about 7 o'clock our appointed time. My name is Hans Hoffmann. I'm Vice President of CAPCA, and I'm substituting for Tony Tomasello, our president, who, as we speak, is working his license, and in fact, he's now offshore and off the Delaware Beach at this point in time. And as many of our captains who are working their license, we just heard that Cheryl Duval, as Bob will tell us, she is captaining a boat in France. So that's an interesting story. And I want to express a welcome not only to our members, but to our guests. And I'd like to say just a couple of words that may be of interest, especially to our guests. The organization is very active. You have seen or you have heard that we are growing. We are at 316 members, and they're coming not only from the Chesapeake Bay area. If you look at a chart, you would see pretty much from the Mid-Atlantic, a few in Florida, a few all the way up to New England, and a very few up to the Midwest even. And the appeal is, as an active organization, we provide a service. You will, if you have had the chance to look at the log, you'll see that the activities extend not only to navigation and to activities, some of which we will be hearing tonight, but also to what's going on in CAPCA itself. We have a very active speakers program. We have a very active group of fellow captains who are making a point of being present at the boat shows now. You will see us there. And they are identifiable because they're wearing CAPCA logo shirts. And then in addition, we have members who will speak. We have a speakers bureau, but I'm going to leave it at that. But I want to say, follow the log. The meeting tonight, for example, is being recorded. CAPCA has a YouTube channel, and you are able to see a number of presentations of considerable interest. And if you want additional information, CAPCA.net will get you to the website and the information. So before I ask Alan to say a few words, I would like to also remind you, please turn off your mics. Yeah, mute your mics, and during the Q&A, Bob will address how he would like to run that. But I'm going to leave Bob to run the Q&A question. But before I ask Bob to introduce our speaker, Alan has a few words updating us about activities he is especially involved in. Alan, go ahead.
Thank you, Hans. Just a very quick note about our education classes that are coming up this fall. On October 19th, we're going to have a license renewal class. On the 2nd, we'll be sponsoring a CPR first aid renewal class, or initial class as well, and a special class on November 19th on leadership for captains, which is kind of unique, how to get the best out of your crew, whether you're working your license or just as a recreational boat and have crew on board. So look for the more information about those classes that are going to be coming out in the log. Last but certainly not least, for the first time, we're going to be at the Annapolis boat shows this fall. We're going to have our own booth, and we need volunteers to help staff the booth. So once again, there will be announcements that have come out. There'll be more announcement coming out in the log in August. So please jump in, help us out. We're looking forward to having everybody at the Annapolis Boat Show. Thanks, Hans.
Okay, thank you, Alan. You heard Alan just say the log is available every month, but this coming August, we will not have a meeting. August is usually time off for CAPCA. Just mark your calendar accordingly. And now, Bob, thank you so much for hosting this section of our speaker program. And I let you now carry on, and I'm going to voice my microphone, but I will be available whenever it's helpful. Okay, Bob.
All right, Hans, thank you. And as Hans is filling in, I'm also filling in. Our Director of Program, Cheryl Duval, is away. I'm on the program committee. But just a quick word, what led me to this program, like all of you, I have a state, or probably like many of you, I've got a state-of-the-art chart plotter on my boat. It's an indispensable navigation and safety tool. At the same time, I grew up with paper charts. I learned on paper charts, and then they still have a place in my boat. Earlier this year, I went to my favorite marine supply store to get my usual print-on-demand charts, and lo and behold, they were no longer printing them. That led me to ask around and do some checking. Got onto some NOAA resources and got myself somewhat up to speed on this has now been happening for several years, that printed charts, at least printed charts issued by NOAA, are being phased out. So I did a little bit of checking around, and I was very pleased to connect with our speaker tonight, Ryan Wartic. His biography is posted there for all of you to see. I'll just say that he's a very experienced mariner with Navy and NOAA service, and a lot of deep technical expertise on the subject we're talking about. And I will just call out one item from his bio. Very interesting that Ryan has sailed on every hydrographic ship in the NOAA fleet. So that's an interesting accomplishment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan, and with Dave Sires' able assistance, to get our presentation up. Oh, and I just want to say one thing. Please do post your questions in the Q&A. And toward the end of the presentation, as we wrap up, I'll try to moderate. I'll just read those questions off, and we'll go through those and try to get all your questions answered. So Ryan, we're really pleased to have you on board, and I'll hand off to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can I just share my screen so hopefully everyone can see my presentation as well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, I'm first off, good evening, everyone. Excited to be here to talk to you guys about what's going on with NOAA. I'm going to be talking about obviously charting and some of the things that are going on with that right now and even into the future. So a little bit more about my background. I have been sailing for quite a few years. I actually have a third mate's 1,600-ton license. So I've spent a lot of time on the water. Between 21 years of service, about 12 of it was assigned to a ship, actually out on the water sailing. So I definitely understand the mariner's perspective when it comes to NOAA's products and services. So I'm coming to you from the NOAA Off Coast Survey, and so one of our primary tasks is maintaining the nautical chart. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit right off the bat about the raster nautical chart, which is the traditional paper chart. And about 4.5 years ago, we started the process of canceling the raster chart. And one of the primary reasons for that is we wanted to focus all of our resources on one charting product, the ENC, rather than having two completely separate processes, resource intensive processes for maintaining two distinct and separate suite of charts. So, and this is something that's going on, across the rest of the world as well. shifting to ENCs being the premier product, and then essentially eventually the only product. So right now we're in our last 6 months of this 5-year cancellation process, and as of right now, every single chart has either been canceled or is in last edition. So what that means is when we were putting a chart into last edition, that was basically a notice that was going into the local notice to Mariner saying that that chart had 6 months left to go before it'd be canceled. So we're in that final phase of this where by the end of the year, our entire suite of 1,007 RNC charts will be canceled. I wanted to just throw out a couple of the things that were some of the services in addition to just our charts. But we have what we call our historical chart collection. So a lot of people, want access to the charts, even though they've been canceled or no longer suitable for navigation. But on our website, you can actually access the last edition of every single chart and download it. It can still be printed. It can be used for reference. It can be used for whatever you want other than the navigation, obviously. But so every one of our charts is still available, and it's kind of a cool place because there's a lot of charts that have been canceled over the last tens of years, or however long it is. And so there's some really cool historic charts in there if you ever wanted to check it out. And a lot of our POD vendors will also print historic charts as well. So I wanted to also highlight our chart update website. This is one of the I don't want to say unintended, but it's one of the consequences of canceling our paper charts, because in addition to canceling the paper chart, there's no longer going to be the chart numbers that everyone is used to. So, I'm sure that, everyone on this call can rattle off, a whole list of charts that they use on a regular basis, and they remember those chart numbers. And not to mention, you would go, look at the L&M, or, you'd get online and download what all the chart updates were for your chart. So because charts are getting canceled and those numbers are going away, the way in which we're referencing or providing chart updates to the public is changing as well. So they're no longer going to be published in the L&M. They will be available on a website specifically designed to provide chart updates. And so it's a more of a graphical interface. You can see on the slide here everything that's new on the chart. So you can look it up by week, and you can look it up by geographic area, all that kind of stuff. And so you can click on the update, see what it is. And so that's kind of how you're gonna. So rather than by chart number, it's going to be by geographic area, and it's based on, kind of your zoom level on the tool. So when we first built our suite of ENC charts, they were based on the footprint of the paper chart. So all of our ENC charts were essentially kind of a copy of the traditional paper charts footprint, and that causes I'm sure a lot of you guys have used some sort of electronic navigation system or an Actis or even just a chart plotter or whatever. But for me, I've noticed it. I'm sure all of you have noticed it, that there are sometimes some visualization challenges with ENCs, with overlap, with different scale charts, with maybe even different contour lines, all these different little things that can make the experience of using an ENC a little bit more challenging. And a lot of that is because of the way the ENCs were originally designed to try to mirror the RNC suite of charts. So we are going through and rebuilding our entire suite of ENCs to have a regular, geometric pattern. So there's going to be no overlap between charts. And the charts will be essentially seamless. So as you're moving from, as you're actually out on the water navigating, as you're moving from chart to chart, you won't be able to tell anymore because you're not going to be going from one resolution to another, and you're not going to have weird areas of overlap where maybe your electronic navigation system is trying to figure out which chart to actually display and things like that. So in addition to what we're calling regridding the ENCs, we're also increasing the resolution of almost all of our charts. So for example, if you had a chart that was traditionally a 1 to 40,000 scale, it's now going to be a 1 to 20,000 and so forth. So there's going to be a lot more resolution and a lot more detail on the charts. And we started this regridding process several years ago, and I have a graphic here kind of showing you the status of where we're at. So kind of the northern part of the Chesapeake and the southern part of the Chesapeake have been done, with the exception of the stuff down in the Elizabeth River and down in near Hampton and Norfolk. That area is actually in progress right now. But this is something that we're working on. This is another this process is, like I said, has been a multi-year process, and it's a resource intensive task. And this is one of the things that we're able to do because we're no longer trying to support the RNC chart anymore. So another tool we have that we developed at the beginning of this cancellation process was called the NOAA Custom Chart Tool. So the NOAA Custom Chart Tool is a tool that creates charts that have a similar look and feel to the traditional paper chart. So we wanted to provide a product that could be printed that would meet the needs of mariners that still rely on paper charts and want to continue using a paper-like product. So we developed this tool. It's been going through lots of development and getting being made better over the last couple of years that people are starting to use it. But basically what it does is it's an ENC chart that has a different color scheme. It uses the symbology that was used on a paper chart. So it and then also the way things are labeled. So it's basically taking an ENC and trying to make it look more like a paper chart. And so the way it works is you go onto the NOAA Custom Chart Tool website and you pick the resolution of the chart you want, and you pick a couple other things, like a couple other things that you want, and you draw a box on the chart, and then you can export it to a PDF, or you can export it to or you can create a custom chart catalog for yourself. So let's say you have a suite of 10 charts that you're always using. You can create a chart catalog with 10 charts at the appropriate scale for navigation, wherever you're normally operating. And then you can create a chart catalog file. The system does it for you. You just, hit the export button. And then you have that file. Every time you open up the application, you can load that file, and then your chart catalog pops up. You can email the chart catalog or the PDF to one of our POD vendors. Or any print shop that is capable of printing one of these, but typically a POD vendor's your best bet, and they can print the chart out for you. So there is still an option. So this is, I guess I should have clicked here sooner. So this is an example of a chart catalog. The red box on the right is a bunch of charts, and I made a chart catalog that was supposed to closely replicate the traditional paper chart catalog from before, and they even named the charts the same, gave them the same names and everything. So I created essentially in the Chesapeake a chart catalog that replicates as closely as possible the old chart, the old raster charts. So it's a pretty cool tool. It's being improved upon on a regular basis. So we're always trying to make it better. Here's an example chart from the chart catalog, or sorry, from the NOAA custom chart tool. So it doesn't look exactly like a RNC chart, but it looks a lot close. It looks more like it than just the ENC does, obviously. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about our actual charting process. And this is just a screen grab I took from what we call our hydrographic health model. So we have all of U.S. waters are included in this model, and the model takes into account a whole bunch of risk factors, such as age of the current chart, what kind of marine traffic is using that area, how much marine traffic is using that area, when was the last time there was a hurricane through there, are there any reported discrepancies, just a whole laundry list of risk factors. And so all of that stuff goes into an algorithm, and we create our hydro health model. And so we use this hydrographic health model to help dictate where our field operations are for the next year, or the year after that, or whatever. So we are out every year with NOAA's fleet of hydrographic research vessels are out collecting data to update the chart. And then we also, about half of the data we get for updating nautical charts is through contractors. So then we're also awarding contracts for areas that need work as well. So I'll just give you an example. If you look at this area, you can see that a lot of the rivers on the western side of the Chesapeake, and some of the rivers up north, a little bit south of like Annapolis, are, there's a lot of red in there. So red means it needs to be updated, and blue means it's good to go. It's got a recent survey, or the combination of risk factors determine that it's not an area that needs to be surveyed. So this was a picture of it, and then this is an example of some of the survey work that we did recently. So just last year, we finished up this project where we surveyed all of these rivers off the Chesapeake. And so if you were to look at the hydrographic health model run again, those areas would now show up blue. And then here's another area. So we did a bunch of surveying up here north, and then obviously with the Francis Scott Key Bridge incident, we did a lot of survey work in Baltimore. So so there's a lot of stuff going on with updating the charts in our area, and also just to let everyone on this meeting know, one of the parts of my job is helping to make sure that the charts in my region are as updated as possible, and taking input from mariners, from the Coast Guard, from the Army Corps, from the Marine pilots, basically any of the users in my region. And if there is a known area that has problems on the chart or anything like that, or for any whatever reason is that we need a new survey, that's one of the things I do is I submit survey requests throughout my AOR based on user input. So just wanted to throw it out there. If you had something that you were concerned about and you thought a survey could help the chart in that area, definitely reach out to me. So I wanted to talk, just kind of highlight some of our survey fleet. So we have several ships on the east and west coast, and then we also use what's called LiDAR, which is basically a laser system from that's deployed from a aircraft that is used for shallow water. So we use that we can actually get bathymetry or soundings in shallow water, and then we also use it for helping us to chart new construction and shoreline features. And then we also have an entire suite of autonomous systems from surface vessels to subsurface vessels. We use these for during emergency response, for example, if there's an area that we're not too sure about, that we want to put a person in there, maybe we don't know if it's going to be safe to put a manned vessel in there, we can put an autonomous system in there. Or if we just want a force multiplication, be able to have more survey assets with the same amount of people, or what have you. But we've been investing a lot of time and energy and money into developing an autonomous fleet in our for our use in survey work. I mean, we use it for all different types of stuff, not just hydrographic survey, but we're using it in the field of survey as well. So I think I very briefly mentioned bathymetry or multi-beam. So these days we're using two main tools for actually charting. One of them is a side scan sonar, and we use that for helping us find obstructions and find objects on the seafloor where we're trying to search for something, and we want a really big search radius with the least amount of actual survey work. So that's kind of where that tool comes in. And then all of our mapping work that gets to the chart is coming from what's called a multi-beam. And so I just had a couple of examples of what a multi-beam is. And so it's basically creating an image of the seafloor with sounding. So what you can see on the screen there is obviously like an old battleship or something, and you're seeing the battleship, but it really is just a collection of dots that are each individual soundings that are extremely dense. So it makes it look like a picture. And so that's what we're doing when we're out surveying. We're completely insonifying the seafloor to create a very high resolution sounding set, and then we decimate that down to actually create soundings on the chart. So when we create a new chart, we have a very high level of confidence and accuracy in what's actually going on the seafloor. So here's just another picture. This is showing you, you can kind of see the dots, the individual soundings. So this is the top is a 3D view, and the bottom is a 2D view. And so this is just kind of how, one of the tools that we have when we're evaluating a survey, especially if we're looking at obstructions or looking at dangers of navigation. We find shipwrecks all the time. We find all kinds of stuff on the seafloor. And so sometimes we have to report stuff to the Coast Guard or different things like that. And a lot of times, if we find something interesting, we'll actually go down and dive on it and just verify what it is. And if we find a vessel, we'll try to get a name off the vessel or something like that. So So I was going to talk a little bit about the actual charting process. I kind of alluded to this already, but here's a picture of a completed chart. So this is what the chart looks like. You can see soundings, you can see contours, you can see aton that's awash. You can see a reef that is submerged. So there's, kind of all the different parts of not all the different parts, but, a handful of the different types of things you're going to see on a chart. So what we start with is a multi-beam data set. And you can see that on this part right there in the middle, where there's like kind of a white gap, that's an area that was awash during the survey. So it's above the water line. And then you can see like down at the bottom where it's like blue and purple, that's where it's deep, and where it's red and yellow and orange, that's where it's shoaler. And then you can obviously see things like sand waves, and you can kind of look like up in the top right, it looks like it's maybe rocky or something, and then kind of in the top middle and top bottom, it looks like it's maybe sandy or muddy or something, and it's kind of a uniform bottom. Obviously, if we got sand waves, it's probably sandy down there. So this is what we start with a survey. So now with our software, we create a high resolution contour set. So each of these contours is so we essentially, like I said, we create a high resolution contour set. Now, from looking at charts that you don't have this many contours on a chart. You have, maybe four to six contours on a chart. So we have to essentially decide, okay, what are we going to show on the chart? So we have to decimate down our contours. And then here's a decimated down sounding set from, the bathymetry you see in the background, but we go even a little bit further than that. So essentially what a sounding is for a particular radius, and that radius is determined by the resolution of the chart. But for a particular radius, a sounding represents the shoalest point within that radius. So you could have, say, 20 meters of space, and it's looking at all the soundings within that 20 meter radius, and it's picking the shoalest sounding. So that's what's going to end up on the chart. So here you see we've kind of decimated down the soundings, decimated down the contours, and then we get, we cut out the stuff that's an actual feature, like the reef and the aton with the reef right there, and the stuff that's awash, and we end up back with our chart. So that's just a really quick kind of tutorial on how we create the chart. So I wanted to share this with you. So right now our ENCs are based on S57 standard, which is the standard that's used around the world. And we're actually been working on not just NOAA, but the all the hydrographic offices across the world, everyone that makes charts. We've been working with the IHO and developing what's called the S100 standard. So what that is essentially the next generation of charts, and it's going to be there's going to be a whole different suite of overlays on your chart that can display real-time data or much higher resolution data. So, for example, when I was showing you that really high resolution contour set, in this chart right here, so this is an S102 overlay, and this was actually taken off of a portable pilot unit. So we've actually, while these are products that aren't going to be widely made available until probably 2026. We have a couple of pilot programs, and so right now we have some S100 products available in Baltimore, in New York, and San Francisco. So basically what we're doing is we're keeping that higher resolution data, and we're using it as an overlay. And in this particular one, we're applying tides to the data. So for a ship coming into a port, and you're trying to plan when it's safe for that vessel to enter port, this is a time-lapse video with tides applied to it. So you can see when the channel is green, it's safe, and as it turns yellow and red, it's no longer safe based on the draft of this vessel and the tide. So a lot of vessels will come into port where the draft of the vessel, they need positive tide to get in. So if we're at low tide, they wouldn't make it based on their loading. So this is just an example of one of the products that is going to be coming out and available soon. It's already available, like I said, a handful of areas, including Baltimore. So the pilots in Baltimore have been using this stuff basically since the key bridge response, because originally Baltimore wasn't part of the pilot program, but we added Baltimore in response to the key bridge incident and some of the more challenging piloting scenarios the pilots were having to work with. They're trying to get vessels in and out of Baltimore with the bridge still there. And then this is just another example of it with isobars rather than a heat map. Okay, so I've already mentioned it several times. NOAA was involved with the Francis Scott Key Bridge response. I was actually at the Incident Command Center for a little over 30 days, and I was actually there when I got the phone call asking to do this presentation. So we actually were there with our some of our survey assets out doing survey work to help open up the channel. Help open the auxiliary channels prior to reopening the main channel, and then helping with some of the salvage operations with identifying obstructions on the seafloor, and then ultimately helping to reopen the main channel. I mentioned LiDAR. So this is an image from LiDAR. So this is a 3D point cloud generated from a LiDAR image. So this is actually a laser system that is, I'm sorry. So this is just an image of a 3D point cloud from one of our laser systems, and we were using this to determine the heights of the bridges and the width between different spans, because we were establishing temporary channels under some of the still standing spans to help establish traffic back to Baltimore during the actual incident. Here's a time lapse of the chart. So one of the things I didn't mention is for the last couple of years, we've been updating ENCs on a weekly basis. So we update our ENC every Thursday, and we had been working towards updating our ENCs daily. And we had done all of the work to make that happen. We just hadn't instituted it yet. But during the Francis Scott Key Bridge response, there were so many different things going on that we turned that functionality on. So we were actually updating the charts on a daily basis and publishing them out to the public, because I guess the main reason is when we would clear a channel and clear an area for navigation to go, the pilots didn't want to move a vessel until the chart reflected what we were telling them was going on the with the channel. So we were basically, every time we did some salvage work and cleared a section of the channel, we had to get the chart updated overnight so that the pilots could actually use it moving forward. So, and that's something that we're still doing now. That's our normal routine at this point, is we're doing daily. When I say daily, it's Monday through Friday. So 5 days a week, we're updating the chart rather than holding on to updates and pushing them out once a week. So this is just, I was just going to kind of show you guys some of the work that we did during the response. So, we would go out, we would survey a channel looking for obstructions. We would look at the sounding sets to help determine what the least depth was going to be for certain channels going through. And so you can see like the picture on the right kind of shows most of the work that we did in there. And a lot of that is, we would survey one particular area, maybe 10 times, because we'd go in and survey, they would do some more salvage work. We'd survey again, they'd do some more salvage work. And so it was like an iterative process. And so this is just kind of an example of, showing where we were trying to get to a 50-foot channel, and we were, finding all of these different high spots or obstructions or what have you that needed to be resolved before we could establish it as a 50-foot channel. And this is kind of like that picture I showed you before, like with the car. This is kind of showing you a 3D image of what, like what an obstruction would look like. This is, pieces of bridge debris like steel I-beams and stuff sticking up off the seafloor that needed to be salvaged in order to, allow navigation through there. So I already mentioned that, part of my job is helping to establish the survey plan with survey requests. The other part of my job is just making sure that NOAA's products and services are meeting the needs within my AOR from all the people that use our products. And so please feel free to ever reach out to me, either with a phone call or an email. My phone number and email are in this presentation. And then we also have a tool called Assist. So you can Google NOAA Assist, and then it basically creates an online, it brings you to an online form where you can basically ask a question or provide feedback or what have you. And if you want to report a problem with the chart, it actually opens up a chart interface where you can actually drop a pin on the chart and then tell you what's wrong with it. So we have this tool, but please, don't hesitate to reach out directly to me if you have any issues or problems. So there's my email address and my phone number. Like I said before, so that's the end of my presentation, and open for questions.
All right. Well, Ryan, thanks very much. Fascinating presentation. Interesting to see the technology and the precision that goes into that. I'm not seeing any questions posted in the chat. If anybody does have any, please, I did jot down a few that I'm going to read off myself. But while I'm doing that, if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and feel free to put them in there.
Yeah, Bob, this is Hans. Maybe I can start out. I think one reason why there's nothing in the chart, we were also fascinated by the enormous detail, and to follow it, I myself didn't have time to enter anything on my those keystrokes on my keyboard into the chat room. But one of the questions that I have with all this terrific technology, what do we do if down the road evildoers do damage to our internet, to our power supply, to our satellites? What do we do?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, I don't know that I can really truly answer that, other than like with a certified ECDIS system. A certified ECDIS system is two redundant systems with a battery backup and also hooked up the ship's power. So I guess the answer is, you can try to engineer a solution that's going to be as resilient as possible. But I do agree, like in the end, if our satellites get taken out, there goes GPS. If if something happens to your electronics aboard your vessel and you lose complete power, there's all kinds of worst case scenarios that you can engineer a solution to plan for the best you can, but in the end, there's no way to really truly answer that question. But hopefully we can do the best we can to prevent.
Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to. For some reason, I can't.
Go ahead, I fixed it.
Mm.
The girls over in that lady did say that they would.
Darn.
All right, Dave, thanks for doing that. Dave, I hope you didn't mute everybody. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
I didn't mute everybody. Some people log on late and they begin talking immediately. And so I got to be quick to try to catch them. Some of them are too fast for me.
Okay. All right. So we do have a few questions popping up. Ryan, do you use any crowdsourced data to augment the survey data that you officially collect?
Actually, yes, we do. This is something that's kind of new for us. We never used to use crowdsourced data, but in probably the last I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years or so, we decided that if you have a source of data and it's better than what's currently on the chart, because there's a lot of areas where the last time a survey was done was 100 years ago, or like say you're up in Alaska or up in the Arctic, there's wide swaths of area that don't have any data at all. It's just essentially looks like a map. There's no soundings, no contour lines. All there is you can see shoreline. So just so you guys know, also to date, we've actually only charted about 50% of U.S. waters around. So there's a lot of stuff to cover, and so we can't cover it all. So we've essentially decided that if we find a source of crowdsourced data, we're going to evaluate it and determine if it provides more information than what's currently on the chart, then we're going to use it for the chart. So that's a pretty good question. And we're also, since we started using crowdsourced data, we've also started taking in data from all different types of sources. So we're taking in data from all over the place and evaluating it and using it to update the chart.
All right. All right. Thank you. Are the print on demand charts current as to the date they're printed?
So as of right now, there are a handful of paper charts left, and we stopped updating paper charts with the exception of critical updates. A couple of years ago at this point. So RNC, raster charts have not been completely updated, at least in a timely manner, for a little while now. And when we have a critical update, something that's crucial for safety of navigation, those do get applied to the RNC charts. But in the past, print on demand chart was the most updated chart available at the time. But like I've said, those are going away at this point. But the output from the NOAA custom chart tool is the most current ENC. So it is like a product from the NOAA custom chart tool. When you print it, it will be the most up-to-date chart available with all of the corrections applied to it.
Okay, thank you. And I had penciled that in as one of my questions. It's very closely related, but also in the custom chart tool, I saw a print, it was 36 by 48 or something like that. So this is not something you're printing out in your home printer, but I think you mentioned you're taking this to a print on demand vendor to do the custom charts.
Yeah, so on the NOAA custom chart tool, you can actually select your paper size. So there's a, I mean, if you ever had your like a printer, and you go in and there's like a, a huge list of potential paper sizes. We have that same list on the NOAA custom chart tool. So
Okay.
you can pick, different plotter sizes or all different sizes, and then you pick the resolution that you want, and then based on those two things, so the size of paper you want and the resolution you want, it creates a box on the chart that you're able to move around and say, okay, this is where I want my chart.
All right. Interesting. Interesting. I think that's a fascinating tool. I'll have to play around with that a little bit. All right. The next question is, for those of us with our standard chart plotters, some of the standard commercial names we use for these chart plotters, how do we know that they have the latest updates that are appearing on our display?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's something that comes up a lot because I think what ends up happening is a lot of people will think that they have the most up-to-date chart, and in all reality, they don't. And unfortunately, I can't completely answer that question because every company, and even models within their product suite, can be different. But the in order, so like, let's say for example, you're using a chart plotter that uses a SD card. That hopefully when you get that SD card, it's got an entire suite of up-to-date charts on it. And so you can already know right there that, as soon as you buy that SD card and plug it in, those charts are going to start going stale. And so hopefully you'll know the age of those charts. And then there's other chart plotters that have the functionality that you can connect them to Wi-Fi or something like that, or they have some sort of cell data connection. So they might be updating charts automatically. Like for example, I don't know if any of you guys have a electronic navigation app on your iPad or maybe even your cell phone. So if you're using one of those apps like CIQ or something like that, those charts will always be updated because you're actually on the web. I think you have an option to download charts just in case you lose cell reception or something like that. So if you know where you're going to be at, you can download charts. But then a lot of times when you get back into cell reception, those charts will refresh or something like that. But to answer your question, every unit is different, and you really just have to dig into how the charts on it are updated and go in there and see where your charts are at. But more than likely, it's going to take some sort of user action to update those charts, whether it's hooking it up to Wi-Fi or getting a new SD card or what have you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know in my case, I just bought a new plotter. It comes with an initial chart pack, but it's really important then to get the subscription to get the updates. So yeah, good point. Okay. On the upcoming charts, you showed a demonstration of how tidal movement was going to be shown on some charts or some charting products. Any thoughts to adding real-time wind and current data to
Yeah.
products like
So I mentioned that our current charts are using S57 standard, and we're moving to the S100 standard. So the S100 is a series of standards. Each one represents a different product. S103 is tides. So S103 is applying either real time or predicted tides to the chart, like I showed you. But there's a standard for current. There's a standard for weather. There's going to be a whole suite of additional information overlays available to you that you can turn on or off. So you can have your charts, your base charts that you're used to seeing, but you can turn on these overlays in a system that's capable of doing it. So for ecdyses, I believe that by 2026, every new ecdys has to be capable of displaying S100 products. And then by, I don't know what year it is, let's just say 2029, every commercial ship that's required to have an ecdys will have to be S100 compliant. So that's coming down the road. You'll start to see a lot of the big chart plotter vendors like Garmin and all these other ones. They're starting to look at implementing S100 products. So, like for example, those two pictures I showed you, those two time lapses, those actually came off of a portable pilot unit that was being used by pilots, and so that particular company has already put in the work to display S100 products. And so I don't see that, like, especially some of the bigger companies are going to be that far behind. So let's say you're actually up in Baltimore, and if you wanted to have an S100 product, the product is available. You would just have to find out if whatever chart plotter you have has the capability to display it. More than likely it doesn't, but if you have sophisticated enough software or electronic navigation system that can receive software patches and stuff like that, there's a chance that with your existing hardware, it's just a software upgrade to allow it to take advantage of that stuff.
All right. Okay, good. Fascinating detail. The next one, it's a specific question, but it's just also a really good illustration of how the local observations and local knowledge might help you and NOAA. And the specific question is, the soundings off Swan Point west of Rock Hole are notoriously inaccurate and show depths 3 to 5 feet lower than actual. And I think I'm reading that as 3 to 5 feet deeper than actual. The areas outside the shipping channel, but important for small boats. And how do areas like that get on the priority list for being updated in your chart catalogs or your?
I mean, it would start with an email to me. If you want to, maybe just take a screen grab of the chart and maybe just open it up in Paint or something and draw a circle around the area that you're concerned about and email it to me, or you can just email me with a verbal description of what you're concerned about. I can submit it as a survey request. So we do definitely respond to requests from recreational mariners. Obviously, our priority is commercial traffic, just because we're trying to keep our keep all of our larger vessels and everything like that safe, but we're also here to support every mariner as well. So I couldn't guarantee when the survey would get done, but we do have several survey assets that are home ported right here in the Chesapeake. So I've typically had a pretty good turnaround on even small survey requests throughout the Chesapeake. So feel free. I think, my email is still up, so feel free to write down my email and send me that survey request, and I can see what I can do.
All right. Thanks very much, Ryan. I was going to say that this at the end, but I will mention it, that your phone number and your email are there, and really appreciate you making yourself very accessible. For this purpose, it really makes a difference to those of us in the water. Next question is what becomes ground truth, and will local notices to mariners be discontinued?
Well, local notice to mariners are being revamped, so they're going to more of a digital format. and the Coast Guard has been working for the last couple of years to revamp the local notice to mariner format and how they disseminate it and make it available to the public. So I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but the local notice mariner is still going to be around. It's just going through an update process. And then, like I said, one of the things that's going to no longer be there is the chart updates. And I'm not sure what the first part of that question was actually asking. The ground truthing part.
Yeah, I'm not yet. Yeah, this was posted by Arthur Harris. And Arthur, I don't know if you want to try to post a clarification. I'm not quite sure what that means, but we have time to come back to that. I'm going to skip ahead one question because Dave Sire posted, will we still see the local notice to mariners? And I think, Ryan, your comment was it's being more of a digitized product.
Yeah, the local notice to mariner will still be available. A matter of fact, that's probably one of the layers that will end up being available on the S100 standard, is you'll be able to actually access the local notice to mariner right on the chart if you want to. But yeah, they're still definitely going to be there. They're just going through. I don't know if even anyone on this call can remember a different format for the local notice to mariner. I mean, it's been the local notice to mariner has been the local notice to mariner as it is today for a long time. So a lot of these things are kind of going through a update process, I guess.
All right. Thanks. Next question, and we're doing okay on time. We're coming up on the top of the hour, but Ryan, as long as you're okay to keep going for a few minutes, this is a fascinating topic, and I think there's a lot of interest. So if you're okay, we'll keep going for a few more minutes. Next question, posted by John Farmer. I might need a little help with this. When will NOAA CCs be approved by the Coast Guard? And sorry, I'm missing the acronym CC.
Custom chart.
I'm sorry.
I'm guessing he's saying custom chart products.
Oh, okay.
Like custom chart tool.
And
If that's the case, the Coast Guard has been they haven't come out and been extremely explicit about carriage requirements and the NOAA custom chart tool, but what I have heard from the Coast Guard and I have seen memos and stuff, but essentially, if you have a NOAA custom chart product and it's printed to the appropriate scale for your navigational situation, and it's less than, I can't remember. I think it was like, I want to say it was like 3 months old or something, 60 to 90 days old. Because when you print out a NOAA custom chart product, it has the date that it was printed. So as long as your product is at the appropriate scale and it's less than, don't quote me on this, less than 3 months old or something like that, it will meet a carriage requirement. And so the Coast Guard, they're definitely thinking about carriage requirement and how the NOAA custom chart tool fits into that. So they've kind of provided some soft guidance at this point, but I would expect to see the CFRs updated to reflect our, what's going on with the chart cancellation process and NOAA custom chart products and all that kind of stuff. But obviously it's a long drawn out process with lots of lawyers involved. So it's not going to happen very quickly.
all right. Thank you for that. Couple other general posts in the chat that you all can look at. I don't think those would be questions for Ryan necessarily. But good. Well, we're right on the top of the hour. I think we've covered anything. Last call if anybody wants to pop up a question. Ryan, from my point of view, this is a great presentation. I've got a brand new chart plotter. It came with a 532 page operator's manual. I looked. lots of capability out there, and I think it's incumbent on all of us to really understand our devices to the point we made earlier in the program, understanding how old or how dated that information is and how you're getting updates to your devices. So I think that wraps it up. Hans, before we sign off, any
I want
final
to
words?
second, yeah, Bob, I want to second your comment. This was absolutely fascinating. It was extremely useful and very important. And Ryan, we will encourage the members who were unable to join because of reasons that I mentioned there on the water, to go to the YouTube channel, to listen to your presentation, and to write and contact you if they do have questions. But on behalf of CAPCA, this was terrific. Thank you very much, Ryan. And thank you all to all of our members for attending. And go sailing. Be safe on the water.